Good luck.
Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün İngiltere'nin en iyi 20 üniversitesi arasında yer alan University of Kent'te eğitimi Daniel, Michael, Emma ve Sophie'den dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı questions kısmından sormayı unutmayın. Yes, Daniel, the stage is yours now.
Super, thank you Zainab, and good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this session about studying law at the University of Kent. My name is Daniel Lee. I'm the Recruitment and Admissions Manager for the law school. I'm joined today by three colleagues from the university who I'm going to ask to introduce themselves now, starting with Sophie.
Hi, hello. My name is Sophie Vigneron, and I'm the co-director of Graduate Studies, which is the LLM program.
And Michael.
Hello everyone, my name is Michael Sewell. I'm the Recruitment and Admissions Officer for the Brussels School of International Studies, which is in Belgium and is part of the law school as well.
And last but not least, Emma.
Hi everybody, my name is Emma Spittles and I am the International Officer for Turkey here at the University of Kent.
So over the next 45 minutes or so, you'll have the opportunity to hear from us and ask us questions. We're keen for you to do that. We're keen for this to be an interactive presentation where you have the opportunity to ask the questions you would like answered. There are the way to do that is through popping your questions in the questions function in the through the webinar software. You can ask questions during the course of the presentations, and Emma will be doing her best to answer them. But at the end of the presentations, I will be welcoming questions from you and putting them to my colleagues who will be presenting. So please feel welcome to ask questions throughout the session. If there's anything you'd like to know that we don't cover, or if there's anything you'd like to know more about that we do cover, then please feel welcome to ask. Now, the presentations will be broken down into three parts. Firstly, I will provide a very brief introduction to undergraduate programmes in law at the University of Kent, before Sophie provides a more comprehensive introduction to our postgraduate taught programmes, our LLMs, our Masters in Law, at the Canterbury campus of the university, before we then hand to Michael, who will talk about provision at the Brussels School of International Studies, the Brussels Centre for the University of Kent. There's a broad and varied range of programmes and options available to you at Kent, all of which you'll hear more about over the next 30 to 35 minutes or so. So let's begin with me and a brief introduction to undergraduate study at Kent Law School. So next slide, please, Sophie. So there are a few key points which are not unique to undergraduate study, just to introduce you to the law school and to set the scene. I'll start with the second one there. It's worth me saying that Kent Law School is part of the University of Kent, a multi-campus, multidisciplinary university. We have a particular specialism in law, but we have a variety of programs in social sciences, humanities, so programs like politics, psychology, English, architecture, and also natural and hard sciences. We'll be focusing today on the law school, which is particularly well known and loved by those of us who are presenting. Now, the law school has a few distinctive features, one of which, and one of the reasons you may be here today, is because we are extremely well ranked and well regarded. Kent Law School is currently ranked 13th in the UK in the Times University Guide and 45th in the world in the Times Higher Education rankings of universities by subjects. So the law school has long been regarded as one of the best places to study law in the UK and indeed in the world. We have an exciting and engaging approach to law, which asks you to think about law within the broader context in which it operates. So we don't just see law as a series of rules to learn and repeat. We ask you to think about the context in which law is created and which law operates. We call this a critical approach to law. We ask you to learn what the law is, but then to think about why we have the law that we have and to question it, to think more deeply about what the law is trying to achieve and the ways it's doing so, and indeed how it could do so better. So we encourage you to think, to have an opinion, informed opinion, and to discuss and debate the law that you're learning. We are a very international law school at all of our campuses. We have students studying with us from Turkey and from all over the world at both undergraduate and postgraduate study. And that international character is also represented in our staff base and in the approach that we take to the study of law. This critical approach is inherently one which looks beyond national boundaries and looks at law conceptually. You think about law beyond the boundaries of a single country. You think about what law is trying to do broadly, and you look at international examples, but particularly when you're looking at postgraduate study, where a lot of the law that you could be studying is inherently international anyway. So next slide, please, Sophie. So an introduction to our undergraduate programs. We have a variety of undergraduate programs. I've listed just some of them here. The most popular is our standard 3-year undergraduate LLB in law. We also have a 2-year senior status LLB for people who hold a first degree and want to do an LLB in 2 years. It's not that common for students from Turkey to do that, but that is an option if you are interested in the professionally qualifying aspect that the programme contains. We also have a number of programmes that are joint. In fact, they're actually all LLBs. I need to change that point on the slide. The LLB joint honours programmes we have include things like politics, management, accounting, philosophy, and many, many more besides. I'll pop the website address for the law school in the chat later, so you can all take a look for yourself. Then we have a variety of programmes with a year abroad. They extend the normal 3-year law degree to be 4 years, with the 3rd year of 4 spent at one of our partner universities, either in Europe or in the rest of the world. Some of these programmes enable you to learn a new language. Some of them allow you to develop an existing language, and some of them are taught entirely in English and just give you the opportunity to travel to another country that you may wish to visit and to learn the law of another jurisdiction. Now, the core of the undergraduate law degree, really all of the undergraduate law degrees, include what we call the foundations of legal knowledge, core foundational areas of law such as contract law, property law. I won't list them all, but there are 7 in total. They're things like criminal law, a lot of the things that you have probably heard about and thought about when you think about what you might study as part of a law degree. One of the things that sets undergraduate degrees at the law school apart are the wide variety of optional choices we have. Now, these optional choices become available to you as you progress into your second and most particularly your final year, where you have the opportunity to choose from a broad range of different subjects or to specialise in particular areas that you're interested in. We have usually about 40 different options available to students. I've listed just some of them there, but again, on our website, you can see some of the other undergraduate options that you'll have to choose from. We have international scholarships that are offered by the University of Kent. Happy to say more about those. And I'll pop another link to those in the chat. But the scholarships do provide opportunity for high achieving students to have some financial support towards their undergraduate studies. Next slide, please, Sophie. So I've mentioned some of these points already. I think I'll skip past this slide fairly swiftly, but just to summarise again that we are extremely international law school with about 40% of our students coming to study with us from outside of the UK, from usually somewhere in the region of about 75 to 80 different countries. We are we offer a very supportive academic environment. We are very used to having students from a variety of different countries and qualifications come to study with us. And we put a lot of work into ensuring that students feel comfortable when they arrive, that they are settled, and they have the support that they need to go on to be successful. There are various different forms that we have of support that we have available. But the main point I want to emphasise is that if you decide to study at Kent, you can be confident that you will be able to settle in and to succeed and have the support that you need available for you to do so. Next slide. And just finally from me, to add some of the key things to know about the law school as an undergraduate student, although some of these again apply beyond undergraduate studies. We are a law school that offers students lots of opportunity to develop their legal skills and experiences, and to pursue different activities to develop their professional portfolio, and also just to broaden and deepen their experience as a student. I think the headline feature of that is our multi-award winning law clinic, which is essentially a law firm that's part of the law school. It's staffed by qualified lawyers who are members of law school staff, with the clinic representing local people taking on cases as any other law firm would, but with students doing a lot of the work, with students deciding to work in the clinic under the supervision of the qualified lawyers who staff the clinic, offering really second experience, which is second to none, in seeing law in action, in understanding how the law that you learn in the classroom relates to real life, and in thinking and reflecting upon what the law does in practice. We also have other opportunities to develop and apply your legal skills. We have a replica courtroom in the moot court, which you can see in the top image there. And we have a number of different co-curricular modules which students can choose alongside their degree, such as mooting, where you are effectively acting as a legal advocate in court, in mock trials, and in negotiation and client interviewing. And we have really active student societies. We have happy students who do some really exciting and impressive things. We've got a number of student societies which focus some on the professions and what you do after you graduate, and some focus on developing your academic understanding of the law. So Kent is an exciting place to be, where you can study in an international environment. You can think about law in a way which is critical. You have a variety of different options, and you have these opportunities available to you to deepen and broaden your experience and to get a practical experience that will stand you in good stead after you graduate. So that's everything from me in relation to undergraduate study. I'm going to hand you over now to Sophie to talk about postgraduate study at Canterbury.
Hello, so I'm going to present you the LLM program now, see how this works in comparison with the undergraduate program. So I think I'm going to go very quickly out to what I study at Kent, as I do not want to repeat what Dan has just said. The one thing that you might want to note, though, is the scholarship provision, but that also Dan will send you a link, because this is actually not up to date. So here we are. Why study at Kent Law School in particular? I suppose for the postgraduate postgraduate program as well. As Dan mentioned, we're a critical law school, and in particular at the LLM, so master's level, we thrive to have research-led teaching. So I think most of the members of staff who teach at the LLM are research active, which means that they publish articles, they go to conferences, present at conferences, publish books, etc. And so they are expert in their area, and they teach what they know best. They teach their expertise. It's also a widely diverse member of staff. Many of us, maybe you might hear, I am French, and many of my colleagues as well come from outside the UK. So it's a diverse student community, and it's diverse student staff body as well. So the LLM is very flexible, and that's one option that is specific to Kent as well. You can determine which LLM award you're going to have by choosing modules, and you can also, and I'm going to explain to you in a minute what are the different specialization. We also have a very active student community, so there are the different student societies that exist at university level, some at the Kent Law School level, so undergraduate and postgraduate, and some are specifically for postgraduate students, such as the LLM conference, such as the Mastering Law blog that you can read. It's written by our master students for members of the public. It's possible to help with the Kent Law Clinic and participate in activities of the Kent Law Clinic. And obviously, we do have student reps as well. So we endeavor to develop student activities as much as we can. We also have student support with a BGT office, pastoral support by academic members of staff, university-wide language support. So that is also very important. So that it's always possible to get help for oral presentations, for written presentations, and this service is available for all students who are registered at Kent. We also have 2 dedicated research and writing skills modules to help improve research and writing skills, so independent research and writing skill in order to better achieve for your assessments. So what are the different master's programs that are offered? We have a master's by research. So the master's by research is just one, it's like almost I could say a mini PhD. It's one research method module and it's one dissertation. There's no talked program for this master's by research. The most common, the option that most students do here at Kent is the master's LLM, so the normal master's, which is composed of 6 talked modules and 1 dissertation. But if doing a whole master seems to be a bit too much, it's normally 12 months, it's possible to study for a diploma, which is made of 6 talked modules, so that would be over 6 months, or a certificate in law which consists of 3 talked modules, talked over 1 term. It's possible to start in September or in January. So the September start is for 12 months, from September to August, whereas the January start is from January to April the following year. It's possible to study, sorry, I don't know what is going so far. It's possible to study in Canterbury and Brussels. My colleague Michael will describe a little bit more, will give you more information about Brussels. And it's possible to study full-time or part-time. So this is a little bit more information about the LLM in law or LLM in social legal research studies by research. So if you want more information about this, you need to apply as well specifically for the master's by research, and you need to have an independent research project for this master. The LLM, so what are the different specializations? And I'm not going to go into too much detail about all the specializations. They're all on the internet as well, so you might find more information. But we do have 9 specializations. This is what is important to remember. So you can choose intellectual property, international commercial law, criminal law, human rights, international law, etc. Most of the subjects that are of interest to you, they all have, most of them have an international element or a comparative element. So it's possible then to be flexible. So it's possible to graduate with an LLM in commercial law and only into commercial law. Or it's possible to choose a major minor. So for example, you might do an LLM in commercial law with a minor in environmental law, or do environmental law with a major minor in human rights. So it's possible to get those different specializations and then choose the one that interests you most, and you will do a dissertation. So human rights, 3 modules in human rights with a dissertation in human rights with a minor in environmental law, for example. And it's also possible to study 1 or 2 non-law modules. So this is something that needs to be agreed with the director of studies, so that will be with me, and say, okay, there's this module that is of interest to me. Is it possible for me to do that? And this is also something that we welcome because that develops interdisciplinarity. So general law, this is just the option to do an LLM in law if you're not sure which specialization you're interested in. I'm just going to go through this very quickly. So that's criminal justice, and you can see the different options that are available. International criminal justice, international environmental law and policy, international commercial law. This is a very popular option. International law, international relations with international law. So international law is the major, international relations is the minor, and those are modules that are taught by the School of Politics. Intellectual property, human rights, law and health, and the different scholarships that we have here. So, teaching in the time of the pandemic, we wish, everyone, I think, wish that things would be back in normal in September. We can cross our fingers, but hopefully we will be back to teaching on campus. We normally teach smaller classes, so it will be possible for smaller classes, for the postgraduate, for the masters, to be on campus. That's what we're hoping, and that's what we're preparing for. If not, they will be teaching online, or it might be that if the module recruits many students, lectures will be online, because it's impossible to have a lot of students in the same room. So lectures might be recorded online, but seminars hopefully will be on campus. It might be also possible to register to study remotely. So if you do have questions, please do not hesitate to contact me or to contact someone like Dan at the admission office. So study lssg@kent.ac.uk. Thank you. Michael?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm just going to share my screen now so that I can start my presentation. Okay, can everyone see that okay?
Yes, we can.
It's working? Okay. Hi everyone. So I'm just going to briefly introduce the Brussels School of International Studies. So this is the Brussels Centre, the Brussels campus of the University of Kent. So the law school operates some of its LLM programs from our specialised centre in Brussels, along with some of our programmes from the School of Politics and International Relations. We've been in Brussels since 1998, so just over 20 years, nearly 20, coming up to 25 years now. And the Brussels School of International Studies is a specialised school of international studies, which incorporates three schools, predominantly the School of Politics and International Relations and the Law School, but also some elements from the School of Economics. And now the reason why we're in Brussels and why we've been operating here, offering master's degrees and PhD degrees, is mainly due to the location of Brussels and the enhancement that brings to you studying this subject in such an international study, an international city. So what we find, what students really appreciate, is to be studying this subject, international affairs, international law, human rights law, within a city where international decisions are being made on a daily basis. And this gives you fantastic opportunities to be in close contact with international organizations. We're in prime location for guest lectures, seminars, breakfast briefings, conferences that all take place in the city. Now, a lot of those things have been online in the last year, but increasingly they are starting to be coming back in person. We're hoping, certainly from the autumn term onwards, we'll see an increased activity in person of these events. Certainly places like the Commission, staff are starting to go back there increasingly. So that is our hope. And again, as Sophie was saying about teaching in Canterbury, we've got the same hope in Brussels, is that our teaching will be more or less completely in person from September onwards, with online delivery where we absolutely have to. And certainly that will be, that could change with any government advice that comes through. So what is the Brussels School of International Studies? Well, it is a slightly different experience to what you would expect, what you would get on the Canterbury campus. We are what we describe as a close community of scholars within one school. So we have approximately 200 students at any one time studying at the school, and we have 9 faculty members. And one of the benefits of being in this environment is that you're within a small community. You get to know your fellow students very well, you get to know the staff very well. And what students often say to us time and time again is they really appreciate being within that environment, knowing their teachers on first name terms, knowing students from across different disciplines. And it does give you a very different experience, but what we're not is a full campus. And so what we often describe is that Brussels is the campus. So you have the learning, the teaching takes place at the school, and then all your opportunities for networking, for internships, or for other events take place in the city. And we really encourage students to use Brussels as much as possible for enhancing their teaching on a practical level. So just to confirm that, the fact that we do have 24-hour study space for students, we have private study rooms, all teaching takes place in our custom-made facilities at the Brussels School of International Studies. Our staff are based in Brussels, so you have good access to them. We also have quite a few visiting teachers. These are normally practitioners that work in the city, maybe for other universities within Europe, and they deliver some of our teaching. So that means many of our modules are a combination of theoretical and practical delivery. So often some of the modules you'll take, for example, EU migration law, brings in a lot of contemporary case studies that the member of staff who teaches that is currently working on. And this enhances your teaching, your learning, by applying practical matters to theoretical situations. So Brussels is a very international city. It's home to many organizations, the European Commission, European Parliament, very obvious ones here in Brussels, but also NATO and just a huge number of NGOs, charities, think tanks, international organizations, and most large corporations would have an office or a base here in Brussels. And that's very important because that helps you make contacts and networks, and allows you also to take internships during your studies if that's something you want to do. And that usually then leads sort of a snowball effect and leads you to get job opportunities, either in Brussels or maybe back in Turkey after you have finished your studies. We are located in Brussels in the south of the city. We're next to our partner university, the Flemish University, the Free University of Brussels. And that does allow you to have those traditional campus facilities if you so want them. So just to reiterate, we have our staff based permanently in Brussels, so you have good access. And that, as I said to you previously, this is one of the real key things about studying in Brussels, is that close community within our student body. So these are the programs of study that we have. Our LLM works in a slightly different way to Canterbury. We have two LLM programs, one in international law and one in human rights law. And we also have a PhD in law. And we also have 7 international relations programs. Now, one of the things you can do in Brussels is you can take the LLM degree and add a secondary specialization to your studies. And this is done through the modules that you study. So, for example, you can take human rights law. If you have an interest in migration studies via something like migration law or human rights within migration, you can then take a secondary specialization in the international migration program. And you would end up with a degree, LLM, human rights law, with international migration. And it works a little bit like a major minor. And you can combine any of these combinations of study that we have here in Brussels. So human rights law with migration is a very popular one. International law with conflict and security is another one of our most popular ones. So this just sort of explains that in one slide. International relations or LLM international law, you can take one degree where you take modules from different areas within that specialization, or you can take this secondary area of study, which is extremely popular. And in fact, most of our students do take the advantage to take a secondary area of specialization, as it's just one way to differentiate yourself with your degree title. It shows employers, it shows future opportunities for what you have studied during your degree. It's a very obvious way of explaining what your degree has been. We also have standard and extended versions of all our degrees, same as Canterbury. Most of our students from Turkey, particularly if you're coming by the Jean Monnet scheme, will take the standard version. Just to give a quick overview of some of the fees, funding and living costs. So these are the current fees for this year. So for standard, we are €19,300 for the fee. And I've also just given a brief overview of the funding, the living costs. I just realised there's a typo in there. It's not 5,000 euros per month for an apartment. It's 500 to 700 euros per month for an apartment. We do have some scholarships, but scholarships are extremely competitive. So I would advise you to apply early for the masters if you are looking for scholarships. Many of our Turkish students come to us via the Jean Monnet funding scheme. I also have a couple of videos to show you. So I'm going to just attempt to do that now. Maybe Zeynep can help me. This is a brief video introduction to the Brussels School of International Studies and studying in Brussels. I hope it works. Okay, so that was the first video I wanted to show you, which it gives just an overview of the feel for the school. I hope it gives you some idea of what it's like, the Brussels School of International Studies, that small community within an international city. I think a lot of people's impression of Brussels is that it is quite a formal city with the Commission and the Parliament, but it couldn't be further from the truth. Brussels is an extremely fun, vibrant and cultural city that I think will surprise many students who choose to come and study here. And that's something I often hear from students each year, is that Brussels has so much to offer. It's almost as if their weekly timetable is extremely busy and extremely hectic, and they can only find they can't choose which activities to prioritize. I think that's particularly true if you decide to take internships, for example, during your studies, which most of our students do. I just want to share one more quick video, which is about the LLM specifically. And this is with one of our students talking about the program, and also our academic Yutaka Arai, who's the professor of human rights law.
So with the Human Rights Law program, this term I'm taking Transitional Justice and Rule of Law, International Criminal Law, and International Human Rights Law. And last term I took Law of Armed Conflict and Legal Aspects of Contemporary Issues. And it's a wide range, but at the same time it's just so specific, because international law is 7 treaties going round and round again, and all the supporting documents around it.
Professor Ham Shebo and I are the only 2 persons who are full-time. And then we got also the contributions coming from Kent Law School based in Canterbury in the United Kingdom. Okay, and they're all teaching the different subject depending upon the research expertise of each contributors. I'm actually working on the research in the area of international human rights law and international humanitarian law, in particular, what we call the law-bound conflict. And so I published so far 2 books. I'm currently working on the another book project relating to the Geneva Prisoners of War Conventions, and my research articles are actually appearing almost every year, well, in fact, every year in some journals.
One really great thing about the personalized attention we get at BSIS and these courses is that you can really shape it how you want. So I'm really into women's rights, and that's what I work for. And in all my classes so far, I've been able to shape the course and the essay that I do to be relevant to me from a women's rights perspective, focusing on India or focusing on marital rape or focusing on child soldiers and sexual slavery. So it's been very adaptable, and that's something that's really nice about it.
Okay, I think that's all from me related to the Brussels School of International Studies. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them, and I will put my contact details in the chat as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Michael. I'm afraid we've lost Daniel for a little bit. His IT has some glitches, so hopefully he'll be joining us very soon. But we have received a few questions while you guys have been presenting. And many of the questions have been tend to focus on employability and internship opportunities. And I know you both all 3 of you mentioned in your presentations about kind of career prospects. So maybe you can get a little bit more about in terms of employability and what students will hopefully be able to do once they finish their degrees.
Well, I think it seems that many of our students who come to do an LLM, some have already worked, so they come to specialize. They come here to increase their knowledge in one specific area, and as it was in the video in the presentation, it's like to get a specialization and then get back to their home country, or get in the UK and get back to the career ladder. So it's very difficult to say what are the employment prospects, because it really depends as well on the experience of the students. But what it is very usually, because the LLM is very international, it's about going into NGOs, going into international organizations. That's usually what many students do.
Thanks. And I know, Michael, you mentioned about internship opportunities. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, in Brussels, we do have a lot of internship opportunities, and that's why many students choose to come to Brussels, because it gives them that access to the internship pool here in the city. Very few of the internship opportunities are within the legal field specifically, simply because it's usually not possible for that to happen. But what many students do is work within perhaps advisory or policy roles within organizations or charities is quite often true, and having an LLM is really attractive for those internship providers. So we often see students maybe working, for example, with a human rights charity, advising, or within policy. So that's very common within the LLM student field. After graduation, again, it's always a really difficult question to answer, because our students just go to so many different places. And one thing I would perhaps recommend is if you have access, for example, to LinkedIn, we have quite an ongoing alumni spotlight series which we're running, which it gives you a good idea of people's career journeys over the last few years of graduation. So I can share that with again in the chat, so people can see that. Yeah, I'll do that now.
Well, I think regarding the program in Kent, in Canterbury, this is a very focused on research. And so this is the experience that if students want to do an internship or if students want to work, do that, but it's very often they're on their own initiative, and we always have to be careful because students have to be able to manage their time efficiently so that it doesn't take away their research time and the time they have to spend studying. But we do have a career service person who is there and who can help students. So, for example, she will be able to give feedback on CVs. She will be able to help on how to draft a motivation letter. She will be able, in the university as well as a service for more like NGOs, the careers advisory service. So for students who are more interested in NGOs, or students who are not sure, if you're not really sure what you want to do, you can actually go and ask questions. You say, this is what I'm interested in, but I don't know what I want to do exactly. So that's where the careers office, advisory office service, whatever the name is also there to help you find out what you would really what you really want to do.
Perhaps if I just answer on behalf of undergraduate study at Canterbury, someone's asked about that specifically in chat, just to really build upon what Sophie has said. Our Careers and Employability Officer is able to support undergraduate students, both in researching their career opportunities and in looking for internships and work experience opportunities. We do have a relatively decent number of work experience opportunities that we have available to undergraduate students, most of which are very short and many of which are provided by alumni. They aren't quite the same as internships, but they do provide some opportunity to get some experience of the law. Primarily, really, they're an opportunity to test out different areas of law, to see if you're interested in them, and to get a little bit of legal experience to help shape the decisions that you make about the avenue that you pursue when you come to choosing what area of law to practice in. Thanks, Emma, for filling in for me so well whilst my connection went down. And thank you everyone for the fantastic questions that you have been asking us throughout the session. You've been brilliant at asking questions about a variety of different things. And I'd certainly encourage anyone who hasn't done so just to look at the questions that people have asked, to see more information about scholarships, about living costs, about pre-sessional courses, about offers, about application deadlines, about different courses that we offer at Kent, and really just a wealth of different areas relating to both undergraduate and postgraduate study at Kent. If you do have any more questions, please feel welcome to type them in the chat now. If not, we will close the session. I will draw your attention to the chat just to highlight some of the links and information you'll find there. You'll find the website for the law school. You'll find the website for the Instagram link for the law school. You've got contact details for the Canterbury campus and for Michael. You've got a link there also to the LinkedIn alumni spotlight that Michael mentioned earlier, and Emma's email address as well. So lots of information, lots of places to go, looking for further information and contact details if you have any further questions. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I'm going to assume that all of the questions that you have been answered. So it just remains for me to thank everyone for joining us today, to thank our speakers, Sophie and Michael, for their presentations, to thank Emma for doing a fantastic job in answering the chat, to thank Zainab for hosting this event and for arranging this for us all, and to thank you all for coming and for the fantastic questions that you've asked and your engagement throughout the session. Good luck for your future studies to come. We hope to see you in the future at Kent. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your great presentation, you guys. It was an awesome session, and we believe it was a really informative webinar for the attendees. And I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. University of Kent ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için chat kısmında paylaşılmış olan mail adreslerinden iletişime geçebilirsiniz. Aynı zamanda yarınki webinarlarımıza da davet etmek isteriz sizi. Thank you very much again, you guys. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.